All right, thank you all. I need to first, you want to come over?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, first, I want to remind everyone that charges are only accusations, and the defendant is presumed innocent unless and until the defendant is either found guilty or pleads guilty.
Okay, we're not waiting on anybody, right? Everybody's here? Okay. Good morning, everybody. I have announcements to make this morning, but first let me start with the folks that are with me. Of course, I'm Jean, your prosecutor. Welcome to the Independence Police Department, where hearts are heavy. And we have a somber announcement to make today, but with me is Deputy Chief Jason Peterson. He is standing in on behalf of the chief, who has some other very immediate needs this morning that he is tending to with the widow of the fallen officer. Also, I don't know where everybody is. So with me over here is Lieutenant Darren Blankenship with the Missouri Highway Patrol and our lead investigator on this matter. Presiding Judge Jalila Otto, thank you, Judge, for joining us this morning. Of course, our Mayor of Independence, Rory Rowland, is with us as well. And also with me is Jeremy Baldwin down here on the end with the Jackson County Prosecutor's Office. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about why you're all actually here this morning. A few others are going to make some comments, but we'll go ahead and get started with the charging of the defendant in this matter. The defendant's name in this case is Larry Acree. He is a white male whose last known residence was in Independence, Missouri. And he has been charged with multiple charges. As I get to that, I want to tell you that he's in custody on a $2 million bond. He's in a hospital at this moment, but he's expected to be transported to the Jackson County Detention Center as soon as he is able. The charges that I have are murder in the first degree for the death of a court process server named Drexel Mack. So Mr. Mack was simply doing his job yesterday when he met a fate that shouldn't be associated with serving process on behalf of the court. Of course, that murder in the first degree charge is assigned with count 2, an armed criminal action charge. There's a second count of murder in the first degree, and that is for a fallen police officer. And there's also a corresponding armed criminal action charge for that fallen officer. The officer's name, as you know by now, is Cody Allen. There's a count for assault in the first degree, and that is for another police officer of the Independence, Missouri Police Department who was shot and struck by gunfire yesterday. I'm not going to name him at this particular time, but we will be able to provide additional details in the near future. There's a resulting armed criminal action charge that goes with the shooting of that police officer as well, who is recovering from his injuries. There will be other victims in this case. We know that there was another police officer that was shot yesterday, another Independence police officer shot in this matter. And as this investigation continues to ongoing, we will get there with additional charges, but we just don't have that prepared yet today, but it will come in the near future. Okay, so what led us here? Basically what led us here is a year-long eviction process had been underway, a year long. And so we really started this process, or I should say the court process, on the notice to vacate. That process had been ongoing for some time. Drexel, who had been to that property before, of course, was there on February 29th to complete that service of process and to actually evict Mr. Aki from the property. Of course, they took multiple steps to make sure that that property was secured and safe to go into. They knocked and announced their presence. Of course, there had been previous notice on the property, and they did receive no answer at the front door and no indication that anybody was in the residence. Because of that, then they proceeded to remove the locks. So they were there for a time, having those locks cut and drilled out so that they could enter. But as Drexel and others were entering to the front door of the residence, he was met with gunfire, and he was immediately fell to the, my understanding is right at that front door of the residence. And that is where additional officers then quickly responded to the scene. Those were the Independence police officers. And as officers do, they were attempting to save Mr. Mack's life by removing him from the property to get him medical care, when they were met with gunfire as well. And as you know, that resulted in the loss of one other officer's life and other officers shot. This is really it's a hard day. Charges are great to be able to give you, and it is also an important way to show that the criminal justice system works even on the hardest days and the worst days. But I think all of us would just like to roll back the clock, a few hours to see if any other fate could have been met. But here we are. I want to extend my condolences to the city of Independence, who has suffered enough tragedy to last a lifetime. But we are here again at this podium because they lost another among them. That condolence also goes specifically to the Independence Police Department, who is suffering a loss that few of us ever have to experience. And then, of course, there are family, and then there's family. There are widows and children and moms that lost somebody really important to them. The same condolence needs to be extended, of course, to the court, because they lost someone that they cared for, that they looked after, and who was simply out doing his job. So, hero can be a lot of different things. It can look a lot of different ways. But there's not just one hero in this case. There's at least two who gave their life yesterday just for the service of their jobs. And I include Mr. Mack in that as well, because he was simply doing his job yesterday. To the family also of the officer and this process server, I want to extend also my personal condolences. We've tried to get through a series of phone calls so that everyone could have personal notification, and we did our best on that, but we feel confident that people have been left out. If you didn't receive a personal phone call yet from my office or from the Independence Police Department, we are still working through some of that. We just didn't want to wait any longer to get charges out and let everybody understand that the individual responsible has been in custody since really the first moments of that call for help. So, as I said, there's some people standing at this podium with me, and I want to offer them an opportunity to come up and say a few words to you. I think probably we'll start with the mayor. And Mayor, I'll go ahead and turn the podium over to you.
Thank you, Jean. I've just got a statement to read and maybe a couple of comments. It's with profound sadness and heavy hearts that we come together to mourn the tragic loss of an Independence officer, Cody Allen, and Circuit Court process server, Drexel Mack. Today, our city grieves the passing of two dedicated guardians and public servants. Officer Allen exemplified the very best of our police force. And as I get to know these men and women of this police force, my respect and admiration grows from them every day. They are remarkable individuals that put their life on the line to protect all of us. They had an unwavering commitment to the safety and well-being of our community. His bravery and dedication will forever be remembered, and his absence leaves a void that cannot be filled. Looking this morning at the picture of Lady Justice, blindfolded, with the scales of justice in her left hand and a sword in the right, and there was a missing image. And there should be a box of hearts stacked on one another, filled, that are empty today. Because there are many broken hearts that occur when justice is sought. Justice cannot be completely served because those hearts cannot be filled again because of the loss of Cody Allen and Drexel Mack. On behalf of the mayor and myself and the city council, we extend our deepest condolences and prayers to Officer Allen's family, including his wife and his young children, his parents, and his colleagues. Their loss is immeasurable, and we offer our unwavering support during this incredibly difficult time. We stand united in gratitude for the service of all of our officers and personnel who put their lives on the line every day to protect and serve our community. Today we mourn their sacrifice and we honor their memory. May Officer Allen and Mr. Mack rest in peace. But more importantly, may their legacies continue to inspire all of us to serve in our communities. Thank you. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, there's a couple others that would make a statement for you. I will try and answer some questions here at the end, but I'm going to go ahead and get through some of the others who have a prepared statement, and that is Deputy Chief, you ready to go? Yes. Deputy Chief Jason Peterson has a few comments on behalf of his department.
Thank you. On behalf of Chief Dustman and the Independence Police Department, I want to thank all of the agencies who responded yesterday and will continue to assist us over the next several days. I would also like to thank the Missouri State Highway Patrol, who is handling the investigation. As for the men and women of the Independence Police Department, we will work to take care of Cody's family, our injured officers, and our entire staff, all of whom have been impacted by this tremendous loss. We appreciate the amazing support of our Independence community, and thank you all for the kind words and gestures, and know that together we will get through this.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. And from the Highway Patrol, our lead investigator, Lieutenant Darren Blankenship.
Good morning. As Prosecutor News, my name is Lieutenant Darren Blankenship. I'm the Assistant Director with Missouri State Highway Patrol's Division of Drug and Crime Control. Excuse me. Yesterday afternoon, I was contacted directly by the Jackson County Prosecutor's Office to request our assistance with this murder investigation. We deployed resources upon arrival. Of course, Kansas City Police Department's tactical units were there set up because we had to make sure the residence of the defendant was clear before we could make entry. At around 1900 hours yesterday evening, the residence was turned over to me. We began processing the residence. I can tell you that we've had crime scene folks and DDCC personnel there around the clock. They're still out there gathering evidence and trying to put this tragedy together. I know that a lot of you may have questions. I can predict some of the questions. I'm not going to describe any of the injuries or wounds. Again, this is still trying to be pieced together. We have video, audio that we have to go through, several witnesses that were interviewed, witnesses that need to be interviewed. We are working with other agencies, and again, I appreciate there are too many agencies for me to recall. I would ask that you please remember that even though these heroes are victims, their families are victims, their co-workers, their friends, community of independence, and all involved are victims. So we have to remember that. I understand that there's a lot of questions that you have. Again, I can tell you that we're early on the stages of the investigation. As the prosecutor said, the defendant is in the hospital, currently in ICU, $2 million cash only bond. When the defendant is ready, it will be transported to the Jackson County Detention Facility. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant. And then finally, my presiding judge, Jalila Otto.
Thank you. She said, my name is Jalila Otto, the presiding judge of Jackson County. On behalf of the entire circuit, we just want to express our sincere gratitude to all of the law enforcement agencies that came out yesterday after Mr. Mack was injured and shot. Independence, I know, was there. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office was there. Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, amongst others. And so everyone who was there, we are extremely grateful. We know it's a large investigation. We are working with the investigators in any capacity that we can. I also want to express our gratitude to the Jackson County Prosecutor's Office as they have continued to work not only to investigate this offense and bring charges, but to also work with the families of Officer Allen and Mr. Mack. I know that's tremendous work, and we're very, very grateful. There has been an outpouring of support from all of the law enforcement agencies in various ways to our court and our court family. As I said yesterday, this is a devastating loss to us as civil servants. We never anticipate ever being in front of a podium like this speaking to you all. And so we're just very, very grateful for all the work that has been done. We cannot express our gratitude enough for that work. And we also want to express our condolences to Officer Allen. He was doing his job. That's what we all sign up to, is to do our job, and he did it, and he did it bravely. And so we are so very sorry for his loss to his family and his Independence police officers, his brothers. I just want to say a couple of things, just so it's clear from a legal process. Typically, when cases in Jackson County are filed, they would go before a Jackson County judge. But because this case involves the death of a court employee, it will not go through a Jackson County judge. It'll have to, there's a process called recusal, where the judges in the circuit will say, we can't handle this particular case because of our relationship with the victim. So we're in the process of doing that recusal. When that happens, we reach out, or I do an order that goes to the Missouri Supreme Court, and the Missouri Supreme Court will appoint a judge outside of our county to hear this case. So we will, as I said, we will continue to work with the partners, but eventually, ultimately, this case would fall on the desk of a judge from a different county than Jackson County. As Lieutenant Blankenship says, pursuant to Missouri law, the defendant will be in court for initial appearance in the near future, which I'm sure you'll be informed of. But I just want to make sure you guys know that. So that's something, just because of just various conflicts of interest, obviously because he was our employee, none of the 16 circuit judges will be able to ultimately hear this case. So it will be assigned to a judge, and you will be informed of that when we have it. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll do our best to take a few questions, and though our hearts are heavy and this is somber, please don't mistake our resolve in this matter to see this all the way through to its conclusion. That's what we intend to do. That's what my office intends to do, and we're prepared to do. With that, we'll see if I can answer any questions.
So my question is, how long were the civil processors, first of all, how many of them were there? And how long were they at the residence before they started to take fire, before they took those locks off?
You want to try and answer that? I think, so you asked a few questions in there. One I can answer. There were 2 civil process servers, and I can't give you details completely on timing yet, but they had been at that property before, so this was not the first time that they arrived there. As I said, this had been a years-long process on behalf of the system to evict this person from their property. And I know that there were other, they did knock and announce, they did try to determine whether or not anyone was home, and it appears to us that no one did answer that door until they got through the front door and were met with gunfire.
I can add to that.
Please.
To give you a little bit of a timeline, so there was a gate at the bottom of the driveway, so they had to cut through and remove that lock from the gate. So by the time they did that, then they proceed up the driveway, a lengthy driveway, but road visible from the residence. So they get to the front door, then they have to drill through that lock to then announce and
Yes,
make
so we're
entry.
just saying, is this like a 15, 20, 25, how long are they at the property, or is that something you guys can answer?
Well, that's why I was trying to give you the point of they're cutting the lock at the gate, getting that accomplished, that task, then moving up the driveway and to there. So at this point, that's all I can really give you as far as a reference until we get other information, call logs pulled, and recordings pieced together on that.
Do we know where the individual was inside? Were they waiting at the doorway for someone to walk in? Were they hiding? Anything like that?
Yeah, we do have some details about that, but we're not willing to go into that much of the investigation at this point in time. As I said, there are more charges that are coming, and it's been hours, not days, for us since that first call for us to respond to the scene. Other questions?
Known to police or a previous record? Or?
I don't have detailed information about that yet. So I'm going to go ahead and pass on that question for now.
Can you explain how the process?
When you say years long, do you mean multiple years or like an all year long?
A 1 year long process.
Okay. Do you believe that he was waiting to ambush these, his process servers at this time?
So I'm going to follow the evidence in the case. Ambush is a strong word, but it may be one that's fitting here. Other questions?
Yeah, how was he neutralized? How did police get into the home, get him out after you had what you've said 3 officers shot at a civil processor?
After the first individual, the first group of Independence police officers responded, then another call for service came out, And it's my understanding at that point, tactical teams were also moved in. And the suspect, the defendant in this case, was shot, of course not fatally, and then was taken into custody.
Were there,
Can you talk a little bit about the repossession or the eviction? Was it because of delinquent taxes, or was it because somebody brought the property?
I believe it is for unpaid taxes, but we're still trying to clarify what that whole process looks like.
Were the first 3 officers that arrived on the scene, those 3 officers were shot?
I believe that's correct. Yes. Sorry, I'm trying to go through the timeline. Yes.
There were 4 officers beyond those 3 that initially responded.
So of course, the first people to arrive was Drexel Mack
Right.
and his team. As you know, the fate of Drexel Mack. Then officers responded, and yes, 3 officers were wounded. One of them fatally.
What was the relationship between the defendant and the property? Was this defendant the property owner, a renter, somebody? Do we know what his relationship to the property was?
I think due to the court process, he no longer had a relationship with the property and did not have a legal right to be there.
so this was a year-long eviction process. Were there any signs leading up to this of a risk of danger of any sorts? Did they ever come back saying?
I don't have that information to share with you this morning.
Do you have any more details on him? Was he someone who claimed to be, what they used the word sovereign citizen? Was there any manifestos there that he left? Was this something that he was planning? He wasn't leaving that house. Can you elaborate on that?
I don't have a lot of detail to give you, so I'm not trying to evade your question, and I also want to be respectful of my process. I really want to try this in a courtroom. I've said that before at this podium, or similar podiums. So I want to be able to get all my facts and air them in a courtroom first.
Do we have the defendant's age?
We do. I think he's 68.
69?
He's 68 or 69. I went to law school, so I don't do math, but 69, I'm hearing.
Are you able to say what type of firearm or firearms he used, Mr. Ipri?
Do we have that available? Not yet?
Slightly stuck confirmed.
Okay. It's too early for us to be able to confirm that information at this point in time, but that would be forthcoming.
And then the Operation 100, we knew that took place last night. I take it there was no one else in the home?
That's correct, there was not.
All right.
Are process servers armed? And usually during an eviction, are they accompanied by sheriff deputies or law enforcement officials?
I think the answer to those questions is both affirmative, that yes, they are often armed, and they often ask for the support of law enforcement to go into certain properties. So not always, but they do ask for that support.
So in this case, when Mr. Mack and his team showed up initially, there was no law enforcement officials with them?
I believe that is correct. I believe that's
And
a
both of
correct
these civil
statement.
process servers were armed?
Do we know the answer to that?
Yes.
Yes, both of them were.
Were they wearing any type of bulletproof vest?
I don't have that information.
Question, so the suspect is in custody. Are there any charges yet, or you guys are still working?
Yeah, the charges have been handed out to you, and most important charges are the 2 murder in the first degree charges, which is the highest charge Missouri has.
If you don't mind me asking, what is the weight on the 3rd officer that you have acknowledged that has been shot? What is the weight on those charges?
It's just because it's just been hours, not days. So it sometimes when investigations occur, you do the biggest items first. So we're simply trying to work through the evidence as quickly as we can, but also methodically and thoughtfully. So we are going to get there. We're just not there right at this moment, whatever it is, 11 or so. Yeah. So we haven't even hit a 24-hour mark for us. That is moving about as fast as the system, frankly, can move.
If you don't mind, there's been a lot that's happened in the metro area over the last couple of weeks. quite to be frank with you, a lot more than some people in this area can handle. It's a lot of tragedy. What's your message?
Yeah, our region has our region has been weighted with, it seems, one tragedy after another. I can tell you that almost every one of those is linked to somebody using firearms in a way that that they're not supposed to. And I do acknowledge that I think this community is suffering. It's a lot for one community to bear. But as someone I spoke to last night reminded me that there is no water deep enough. We'll keep doing our job. We're going to keep showing up and carrying this through the criminal justice process. But beyond that, the reason I thought it was important after the parade to engage in a wider discussion and try and lead through offering trauma counseling, it was to acknowledge that we're a community that is hurting and that we need help. And I encourage people who to need that help to get it. It is available. Although we are a community that's had a lot of tragedies, we are a community that does have a lot of resources available. And I think, I don't know what day it is right now, but we'll be putting out more information about where people can continue to get resources for the trauma that they've experienced, either witnessing crime or just, somehow feeling like they need that help. We want them to get it.
Maybe just one more question. I have a lot of questions for you.
You do, but let's try one more.
Can you tell us when, you said a year-long process, okay?
Yeah.
When did that process start? February 1, March 1, February 25th? When did that process start? And when did that relationship end between this person in that home and that no longer being where they were allowed?
Yeah, so there was a process before this date, but in the probable cause statement, it does list February 9th, 2023 was when a notice was given regarding the property. So, that's more than a year ago, and obviously to get to legal notice takes some time as well prior to that. So this has been in the works for some time. That is what our legal process looks like. It is a system that I'm not as quite acquainted with as I need to be, but will be as this case is ongoing. So that, it was news to me as well that it takes that long to remove someone legally from a property.
You mentioned services for the community. What about the officers in the Independence Police Department? What kind of services do they get out of a tragedy like this?
I'm going to let Deputy Chief maybe answer that. Sorry, brother. I told him, I said, I'm going to make sure that you were protected today, that he's not prepared to answer a lot of other questions. So with that, I'm going to let you decide.
I can speak to it. Yeah, I can speak
Okay.
to it. We do have services that are available through the city, and our human resources officer, or director's in the back. I'll call her up here, put her right on the spot. I'm just kidding, Jamie. But we do have a robust area peer support group that is made up of other first responders that can relate to us in a way that folks who aren't in the same business may not be able to as easily. So that is a network that we activated very early yesterday. They reached out to us. We have a lot of folks that are attempting to give us as much support as they possibly can, and there are services available for us.
Steps moving forward, what are you doing to reevaluate what happened yesterday? So it won't happen again.
Look, we are here announcing 2 murder in the first degree charges. That's where my head is today. 2 murder in the first degree charges. And we have a mountain to climb, but we're prepared to climb it. And as we have the opportunity, certainly we will look at process. But I am not going to do that this morning.
Question for
Okay.
Judge Otto. Regarding Mr. Mack, was he Kansas City resident, Independence resident? Do we know that?
I'm not sure. I know he has family here in the Kansas City area and family in Florida. We know that to be true. I don't have his exact address, but I do know he has been in the area and the region and working for the court for the last 12 years.
Okay.
Prosecutor Baker,
Yep. Last question,
I
though.
don't see
Okay.
any, charges
You'll make it a good one.
related- Thank you. I haven't seen anything related to weapon possession. Is it, do we know if these weapons Mr. Creedy had were possessed lawfully at this point or not?
Bluntly, most weapons are possessed in a lawful manner in the state of Missouri. Most weapons are possessed lawfully in the state of Missouri. It would be rare generally to find a weapon that is illegal under Missouri law. It is possible if it's a fully automatic, and certainly if it's in the hands of someone that is a convicted felon. But that's bluntly, that's about it. Okay, thank you very much, you guys. We appreciate you.
I'm not a
Okay, so there is a lot to unpack just with that press conference alone. I kind of want to go over the details that we just received there from Jackson County Prosecutor Gene Peters Baker, as well as other individuals in law enforcement. I want to turn to social media platform X, taking a look at the two individuals that unfortunately lost their lives yesterday. We're talking about Officer Cody Allen, as well as civil process server Drexel Mack. Now, we do know that Larry Acree, he is a white male, 69 years old. He is the man that is charged in this shooting. We do know that he is in custody technically. He's under a $2 million bond. Now, he is in the hospital right now, but he will be transferred to the Jackson County Detention Center. More charges are coming, but he has been charged already with multiple charges. So I do want to go over those right now, what Gene Peters Baker, she just touched on. So we know that there are two under first-degree murder charges. And again, like I mentioned, he is in the hospital right now, but then will be transferred to Jackson County Detention Center. One in first degree for the death of a court process server, the other second-degree count of murder of first-degree fallen officer, and also an account for assault in first degree of another police officer shot. So as far as what we know so far, I do want to go over those details. And as I go over those details, I want to give you a better look at the procession yesterday in honor of Officer Cody Allen. So many police departments and agencies came together to honor him, and they'll continue doing so on social media platforms as well in the coming days and weeks. So I do want to go over those details as far as what was just touched on during that press conference. So we know that this has been a year-long eviction process for Larry Acree, that 69-year-old male. And we do know that Drexel, he had been to the property before. He actually went with another process server, and they knocked and announced their presence. And once they didn't hear anything and no one came to the door, they believed that no one was inside. So they proceeded to remove the locks, and that's when they were met with gunfire. Drexel did end up falling to the floor, I should say, fell right at the front door of the house. And that's when officers responded, attempting to save his life by removing him. And that's when they were met with gunfire. And that resulted in the loss of one officer, and that is Officer Cody Allen. Again, all of these details are just coming in from that press conference, so it's a lot to unpack, and we'll be unpacking it in the days and the weeks to come. But I do want to just kind of give you a rundown of what we do know so far. I want to touch on a few things that the people just said there, the individuals just said in that press conference. And something that touched me is that today we mourn their sacrifice and we honor their memory. And then Gene Peters Baker, she went on to say, talking about the community trauma, and we'll touch on that a little bit later during our newscast today, but she says that we are a community that is hurting and needs help. And this shooting yesterday comes just 2 weeks after the shooting, the fatal shooting at the Chiefs rally that was supposed to be such a wonderful day full of celebration, and it turned out to just be a tragedy that not only shook the people here locally, but also across the nation. Chiefs fans and people who were also looking at their television screens and scrolling down their social media timelines, hoping to see more photos and videos of Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce throughout the day, and it just turned into a complete tragedy. So again, our community continues to suffer by these traumatic events, and so I do want to give you another look and who we unfortunately lost yesterday. You're taking a look at Officer Cody Allen as well as civil process server Drexel Mack. Our coverage here at KCTV5 will continue, so be sure to keep it tuned in here with us, giving you another look at the end of watch for Officer Cody Allen, marked February 29th of 2024. And we actually got a quote from Drexel Mack's, his sister, yesterday, saying that we were each other's favorite. He meant everything to me. And you can read her full quote and what she sent to us here at KCTV5 on our website right now. And speaking of, I do want to turn there. We do have a banner right at the top with that breaking news coming in that a man has been charged with murder in the deaths of Independence officer as well as a civil process server. And our coverage will continue. I know we're preparing for our noon newscast, so be sure to tune in to that for the latest details as well as our evening newscast as well.